Ever wish you had someone to talk to anytime, anywhere, no matter what you're going through? Meet psychpal, your 24/7 AI companion designed to help you process your thoughts, calm your mind, and keep you moving forward. Chat anytime during a panic attack, on a restless night, or just when you need to vent. Prefer talking instead of typing? Try voice journaling. PsychPal listens, transcribes, and truly understands. You can even upload screenshots of tough conversations and it'll help you unpack how they made you feel. PsychPal keeps life organized too. It can add appointments to your calendar, track your mood, and even summarize your sessions for your therapist so you'll never lose progress. Plus, built in crisis resources are always just one click away. It's a privacy first, constantly evolving, made to complement your professional care, not replace it. Ready to try it out? Head over to the link in this episode and use my code Pete at checkout to get 20% off your first month subscription to PsychPal. PsychPal, because your mind deserves a companion too. Welcome to an exciting episode of Pete for Society, guys. Before we get started today, I want to give a quick shout out to my partners from PsychPal. Guys, go to the description, try out the link, and at 20% discount for the first month. Listen, I know I'm a great guy. Mention Pete at checkout, guys, and you'll get that discount for sure. Guys, with that being said, my guest today is the host of Through the Darkness, a mental health recovery podcast, the one, the only, Caralyn Dreier. Caralyn, how are you doing today?
Hi, Pete. I'm awesome. How are you?
Doing good. And Caralyn and I were supposed to link up a long time ago, but it's been a long time. But she's here now. That's all that matters. Caralyn, why don't you tell everybody a little more about yourself?
All right. Well, I am a trauma survivor. This includes domestic violence, a sexual assault, a suicide attempt. Um, I've been through a lot. I'm 44 and I've been through a lot in the last 20 years. I don't ever want to sound like I'm like listing off my traumas and stuff, but unfortunately I've had to overcome a lot. I've overcome miscarriages, a divorce. So,
I remember, I remember the
I'm no
last time we were
stranger
talking about
to
meeting up
mental
too.
health.
You had the whole situation where there was gunshots outside of your house as well. That too. It's Carolyn has an
Yeah.
interesting time going on for her, man. I'm telling you, the hits just keep coming.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That was so scary. One of the bullets entered my home, and where the bullet entered, if I would have been sitting at my dining room table at the time of the shooting, it I don't know how that would have ended. It would have been like a straight shot. So yeah, it's been a fun adventure the last couple decades, but I'm still here.
Fun, sure. I guess if that's what you want to call it. So take us into how you started the podcast. I mean, I know with podcasting, it gives you that avenue to start talking about it. Was it hard to make that decision to talk about a lot of things you go through? Because I know with sexual assault, a lot of times people get very sensitive about it. We had a guest on the show. In fact, her episode just dropped Wednesday where she was telling me that somebody was making fun of her for talking about being sexually assaulted.
Wow. That is awful. That's horrible. Yeah, I've had my fair share of mixed reactions to being a survivor of that. But I will say this, talking about the traumas I've been through is not really that difficult for me because I've been sharing my story, maybe not as loudly as I am now, but certainly since some of those things have happened, like other people know. So from that aspect, it's not like a huge deal to share that stuff. But I think the public speaking aspect of it was something I had to overcome at first. That's why I started out with my blog. Uh, Gosh, I'm like having a brain fart here. Darkness to Dialogue, Living Well with Mental Illness. That is the first blog that I came out with. And that was my little stepping stone to start sharing, more intimate details about surviving some of these traumas. I've always been able to express myself through writing, like no big deal at all. So because I want to advocate for mental health recovery, I feel like I need to have my voice be out there in any way possible. Not everybody reads blogs. So I was like, well, I can do a podcast. People don't necessarily have to see me. They can just listen to my voice. I've overcome being camera shy.
Yeah.
So, the appeal of like an audio podcast was like great for me. And like I said, I just want my message to be spread to everyone. Not everyone is on social media. So, also from
Mhm.
like a business or a marketing standpoint, why not have yourself out there like in any capacity possible? So, that's kind of how it started. I just recorded the first episode from my cell phone, did a little audio editing with, an app, and you know, the rest is history.
Yeah, I asked Caroline to invite me to hers, and she said, "I don't do guest Pete." I'm okay, fine. I'm a little offended, but all right, okay, cool. But no, it's so cool though that you've decided to go that route though, because like now you have no limitations. You can put it out where everybody can hear it,
Yeah.
and all it takes is you to record it. So did you find that the technical aspects of it a little tougher at first because there's so much to it? I had to learn. Like I was recording from my phone originally when I did my first podcast, and then I went to this one. I got the mic, I got everything else. People start donating to things as I start mentioning. I was talking about mental health. Like you'd
Oh,
be amazed how many people are standing behind it. The computer I'm using, the microphone I'm using, the arm has been donated by people too. Like everybody just started like donating little pieces to this whole conversation, and they were like, "Well, I appreciate what you're doing." And things like that too. So like when someone else gets in the ring with the mental health as well as in a podcast form is great because like a lot of podcasters don't make it past 20 episodes, man, and it's a lot of work. Like people don't realize how much work I put into doing this thing every week. I've like I told you, I have like 14 of these things I still have to edit. And I've got four more today. So yours and three others I have to do as well. So like I've got myself constantly doing things, and it's hard because it's a lot of conversations you're having. And then, and putting all the information out. But the great thing is not all the little tools that are like the digital calendars, the schedulers, and things like that. So I can manage to be in more places at once, and I don't have to put twice the amount of work that I was doing before. Because in the beginning, God, I remember I was trying to schedule a lot of these people. It was hard because I just kept getting hit up. People were like, "Oh, I want to be on the show. I want to be on the show." I think my first post I had like 150 different responses of people just were like blowing this thing up, and I was like, "Damn." I didn't realize this was a conversation people wanted to have so bad.
yeah, absolutely. You're a machine, Pete. You're like such a machine with all this stuff. You're doing awesome. But yeah, I didn't really have too much of a problem. The thing about me is I'm a huge researcher. So
Hmm.
anything I'm going to start doing before I even really start it, like I'm doing a little bit of research to see like what are the best apps, what's the best of this, trying to pinpoint like a focal point for the podcast. So I like the planning of things like that. So that part was fun. And the technical stuff really wasn't too bad. YouTube is, like, a huge help. I'm, like, a visual learner. I don't really like to read a bunch of steps. I'd rather, like, watch somebody do it, but, I'm surprised, and I tell myself, like, "Girl, you are 44 years old. You've gotta be able to figure out some of these things with all of this life experience," like, all of that stuff, but yeah.
Or reach out to Pete, and Pete can help you. And by the way, you dude, don't look 44. You look amazing for
Yeah.
44, to be honest with you.
Oh,
But
thank
you have
you.
me you can reach out to as well. I have a lot of proteges that I have under me that I help a lot of people and things like that too. So, but when you got ready to unleash your story to the world, were you ready for this? I mean, because now you have to remember now with podcasting, you're not just in one space. Like these people that limit themselves to like TikTok and things. I'm like, you do understand you're going to the global scale now. People around the world are going to hear this story, and I keep the analytics on my side. I'm looking at, like people in Vietnam this past week when listening to a lot of my stuff. I get to see what countries, the breakdowns of what countries are listening to things. It's interesting to hear like where people are listening to your stuff at too. So did you think about that before you start putting this out there? Because now a lot of people don't know your full story. Now you're about to unleash it to the world. You're about to be on the internet completely like I am, and there's going to be nothing to hide. So were you ready for that? Is that something you had to prepare yourself for?
You know what? I was ready because when I started all of this, like a couple of years ago, is when I really first started sharing my story. I had my profile go public on Instagram for the first time in like 10 years. So that was a huge step for me. I have to keep, even though I'm sharing my story, I have to kind of still have like my security on lockdown a little bit because
Hmm.
of outliers that are floating around out here that I don't really want in my business, but sharing it, like, on a global level was not, like, intimidating really for me at all, and in fact, it's, like, kind of cool. I know my blog, both of my blogs have a really big international following. And I don't know, it's just cool to think about mental health being spoken about literally like worldwide.
Hmm.
I don't know, it's just really cool. So I wasn't too scared about that at all. And in fact, I think I just like jumped in so quickly. I didn't even really have time to appreciate like the magnitude and like the gravity of everything.
Yeah, when I did this show, I just kind of jumped head first. Well, I've already had podcast experience, but when I got into this subject, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be consistent when I did it because it was the advice I got from another podcaster I'd followed for a while, and he's a men's coach. Paul Bauer, the host of Come On Man, he and I interacted a long time ago on TikTok. He actually was a guest on the show, so that was, oh, I was so excited when he said yes. But he'd been on the show, and I told him, Paul, he remembered in the episode that I knew him from TikTok. He was like, "You're the guy that was following me from TikTok." I'm like, "Yeah, did I talk to you a long time ago, Paul? I asked you some advice." And he said, "Ever since then, I took your advice to heart. You said to be consistent. So ever since I set out to do this show, that was one of the big things I learned was just being consistently dropping things. So like as I progressed,
Yeah.
I went from just Mondays to Monday, Wednesday, Fridays because I have so many interviews, you know, but the things stayed the same. Same time, same date, stay consistent with everything else. So it's been really interesting ever since day one of the show. The demand of people being want to be on the show. But my whole story's out there for people to hear. Like people act like you can sit there and use any of that against. It's all there. What do else I have to hide? I don't have anything to hide. My whole life's on the internet. And now your story's going to be out there. Everybody in the world's going to hear it. Are you worried about somebody hearing some of this stuff, or is it just kind of like because you do know that some people are going to hear that may not agree with your opinion? Are you ready for some people to push back and be like, "Oh, no, you're just making these things up," because you're going to hear that negative voice anyways, because we all know how great social media does with mental health these days.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not worried about people hearing these things, like specifically maybe my past abusers or the young men who were involved in my sexual assault. Like,
Yeah.
they know what they did.
Yeah.
That's how I look at things. Like, we were both there. So I'm confident in my truth. And certainly, I'm not even really sharing my story to enact any type of like retaliation. I'm not seeking apologies. I'm not even seeking accountability or anything of that nature. I'm just showing the world and whoever agrees or disagrees that this is my truth. I'm going to keep talking about it. I don't care if you agree with it or disagree with it. I know that there's people out there who can relate, and those are the people that I'm concerned about. And I have some pretty unbelievable things that have happened to me, so I kind of do expect people to A, be like, "What was wrong with you? Why didn't you get out of there?" Or B, be like, "No, there's no way that that possibly happened." So
Yeah.
I just, I've always been kind of like the odd one out or like the black sheep type of person. So I'm used to kind of standing on my own, and I will continue to do so, if
Well,
need be. I'm
you're
saying
no
like
longer
stand on my
alone.
own in terms
You
of
have
like
me on
my
your back now.
opinion.
You have me at your beck and call. Somebody starts, gives you. I'm there. Just call me. I'm there. I got you 100%. Listen,
I
for
know,
you to
I've
come
heard
out.
you.
For things like that, it's like it's very powerful because you're coming out talking about these traumas you've gone through and all these things you've been through. Obviously the question to you would be, is it make relationships hard for you what you've gone through? Are you at that point where you can
Mm.
handle a relationship where it doesn't really make things awkward in those situations?
Yeah, I would say probably about 10 years ago, it was difficult for me to be in whether it be a friendship or a romantic
Mhm.
relationship. And for me, I think it was always just like the trust factor. When you've
Mhm.
gone through traumas, especially where people have like betrayed your trust or hurt you, you just kind of start to develop the outlook of the world as it's not safe, and your brain
Yeah.
helps you develop that outlook. So you really don't have any way around it. So that is the aspect of relationships that has been the most difficult. And I'm a hyper independent person as well. So, as much as I like any kind of relationship, I can take it or leave it. So it's just about finding a balance
Yeah.
between knowing I can lean on others, but also exercising that discernment and trusting my gut and things like that.
Yeah. So let's go a little deeper. Was intimacy a little hard at first after that 10 years? I know, like, with everything gone through, I know that's a question will come up. If you can answer if you want to, you don't want to. I'm just asking from your own opinion. Was it
Yeah.
a little rough at first for you when it came back to that kind of thing? Because you may have had flashback moments and stuff like that. And if this is too deep of a question, we can leave it alone. I promise you.
No, I'm more than happy to answer that. And I'm glad you asked. I've never been asked that before, but it's important to highlight that. After the sexual assault, I had for sure like a social dependence on alcohol. So
Hmm.
I can say that anytime I was intimate during that time period, I wasn't sober.
Okay.
I
Okay.
was under the influence of alcohol. I had to because, like you said, it's a huge adjustment to, having somebody take what they want from you to trying to navigate
That trust
that type
factor of
of
you guys are
situation
having in that
within a
situation. Yeah.
relationship. Yeah, absolutely. So after I was not dependent on alcohol, that is when I did notice the struggle with intimacy and
Yeah.
trying to not have certain like feelings or emotions, trying to have that feel like a thing of like comfort or security, even as opposed to something creepy and dirty.
Yeah.
And that was a huge adjustment, and it's something I will have to work at for the rest of my life for sure. It's definitely less of an issue now, but I do have my times where I have to catch myself from disassociating from what is going on, and I
Yeah.
that was a mechanism for me for many years was to just, disassociate from what I was doing, like, think about my favorite song or do something weird like
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a work in progress, but it's better.
So would you say your future partner would have to be very understanding, which they would be in that situation, because they have to understand those moments where you're kind of triggered. They're going to have to understand that, listen, you're going to have to go to defense mode and comfort you to make sure you understand that you're safe. And I could see that though, because my recent partner was like that. She had a lot of past traumas, and intimacy was interesting with her because it was just like some moments it was like you guys are in the moment it revs up, and then it's like you got to stop because she's triggered, and it goes from that
Yeah.
to you got to comfort them kind of thing, and stuff like that too, which is understanding because, uh, it's hard for a lot of people to understand it. A lot of people are just like, oh, I can handle it. And then they can't handle it. And it's like, it's a very discouraging topic for a lot of people because they're like, well, oh, it's but she's been through a lot. You have to understand these things. So are you open with your partners about that? Hey,
Yeah.
listen, I had gone through some things. Please understand that something may occur during this session. If we get hot and heavy and may get a little situation where we may have to, pull it back a bit because I'm triggered by something. Those have to be interesting conversations with anybody, yes?
Yeah, absolutely, and interestingly enough, a lot of, like, the past relationships that I had were with people I had been friends with
Oh,
first,
okay.
so there was already, like, that comfort level. Yeah, there was that comfort level there already, and also the thing about me is I can't enter into any type of relationship without explaining some of the stuff that I've been
Yeah.
through because even with just like friendships, when I was really struggling with like anxious attachments,
Hmm.
you start to like call incessantly or whatever. So I've always kind of had to just go in being genuine and authentic with who I am and like where I came from. Um, so yeah, that's something that for all survivors out there, it's something that you can overcome. But I would strongly encourage you to share that stuff, if you're in a dating relation. I mean, look, first date, I I probably have shared that type of stuff on a first date, especially in my 30s or late 20s, because at that point, I'm not out here. trying to just be dating
Yeah,
everyone or anyone, everybody. So it's something that I probably would tell right off the bat that probably goes against dating advice. I don't care. But why waste anyone's time? It's
exactly.
not something that everybody's able to or willing to take on.
Exactly. I think it's a really great point there. Not a lot of people are able to handle the conversation for a lot of these situations and things like that
Yeah.
too. And I know
Yep.
you mentioned your suicide ideation. So in that moment, what stopped you? Was it something that just told you to stop, Carolyn? You got to be here. You're going to be something special to people, voice to people. What was that one defining moment where you were like, okay, well, I can't do this, or was it just like you just came to reality at that point? Because a lot of people that get in that moment, like my situation was, is that something just told me to stop in my head. It's like I was seconds away, and then I stopped because something told me to stop, and I couldn't tell you what it was. I don't know what it is exactly. It was like a voice that came out of nowhere and said, "You better just stop," real loud yelling. So, what was your moment like?
You know what? My reason is kind of a bittersweet one. So around the time when I had my suicide ideation attempt, I
Hmm.
was estranged from my family, and this was after the sexual assault. I moved out of my mom and dad's house and moved like full time on campus, just like sleeping on people's couches and things of that nature. And I recall a phone call with my mom. This was like prior to the incident.
Hmm.
And she told me that my younger brother was like sad that I didn't live there anymore. And that just like really got to me at that moment. Well, fast forward to the evening of my attempt, I had written out my suicide note, and something came over me, and my reason for stopping was my little brother, but my family in general. I was thinking, like, how can I leave them like that? Now they're going to have this tragedy be a part of their story. And I say that's bittersweet because as I've been healing, I have decided to separate myself from my family because it's not good for my mental health.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's bittersweet that my reason for staying was really for a fantasy of what I thought I was living for. I
Yeah.
thought I was living for a family unit that was comforting, supportive, all the positive things. And look, I'm not dogging my family out. They are wonderful people. Many people love them and, want to be around them. So they're not terrible people. It's just for me personally, it's not healthy for me. So it's sad that I'm glad I'm still here, obviously, but it's just kind of sad that that was my reason for staying. But it was really just I was staying for, an image of what I thought I had, basically. So, and because I'm a believer, I have my faith, I'm a Christian. I do also believe that God wanted me to stay as well. But just in a general sense, I was staying for my family. And the irony of it all is they still have a little bit of tragedy in their story now because I can't really be around them.
Yeah. Yeah, but at least you can't be around them. And you're putting
Yeah.
your mental health first, which is great. And it's hard for a lot of people to even admit that. So and that's why your story matters regardless of how bittersweet it may be, because other people need to know
Yeah.
that listen. So after that, did people know you attempted? Because my next question to you is going to be, is this: did they treat you weird when they found out that you're a survivor of suicide? Because a lot of times when people find it out, then they start like kid gloving you and treat you in a weirder way, and they're like, oh well, I don't want to upset so and so because I don't want to say the wrong things. In fact, when you do that, you're making it worse for them. And it's the same thing when it goes to addicts. You think about it. People that are going through recovery, people treat them in a different light because they know they're an ex-addict. So then they think they're going to steal their pills or whatever it is, and I've met a lot of them that have said that. Did anyone make you feel like that when you've told them that?
No, and the night that it happened, I reached out and called a friend, and he worked at the juvenile detention center. So he was actually the right person to call. I mean,
Oh, okay.
he had been trained in dealing with situations like that. But after sharing that, I really didn't talk about it until maybe like my 30s. And I don't know that I really had anybody treat me differently. If they were, I maybe was oblivious to it or didn't
Yeah.
care, but yeah, and I guess also at that point in time, I was probably only sharing it with people who I knew would be supportive because I had learned, even as a child to detect, people that are safe versus maybe people who are not being genuine, that type of thing. So no, fortunately, I haven't really experienced any negative reactions.
Yeah. Well, that's good though, because a lot of people do when they start sharing their stories, they tell people things, they get that weird moment that goes on, and then people start looking at you in a different
Yeah.
light, and it's really sad that that's how they like it's really sad for the fact that they do it, but they don't realize the negative effects you're having on the person that's been through that. It's like we don't want you to treat us any differently. Like you don't know what the contributing factors were. We do, and if we tell you, I'm the same way too. It's like I don't tell people about the thoughts that go in my head every day because I literally told them all. It's like if I told you the thought that goes through my head every single day, I guarantee 9 out of 10 of you are all lining up for the psychiatric ward because you're going to be like, wow, and it's like I don't share a lot with certain people because I'm the same way because I know if you can't handle this conversation, I'm not going to tell you about it because like, I think that a lot of them are just not ready for it. Mature, they're not emotionally mature enough or they just can't
Yeah.
handle the situation. It's the same thing with grief. Grief's not for everybody, like people going through things, it's
Mm,
like, everybody wants you to help, but it's like they don't want you to help. They want you to listen to what they're going through. They want you to be heard, and I know it's a lot of such
yeah.
assault victims. A lot of times when they talk out, people are just like, "Oh, you're crazy. You're making this up." And a lot of them, that's what they've been
Mm,
saying. Like they're like, "I spoke out." We teach our kids, "Hey, listen, if something happens, say something." And then they say something, and then it's, "Oh, well, no, they would never do that," kind of thing.
yeah.
Because you don't want it to be
Yeah.
true, especially something like that. Oh, hey, listen, I got inappropriately touched as a kid, and I'm telling them some of the adult about it, and they're just telling me, oh, you're just making things up. They would never do that. It's a family friend usually, or it's a grandfather. It's somebody could be somebody they don't even know that did these kind of things. Friend of somebody else's. And it to me, it's just it's ridiculous because, like I said, Holly's situation was is that she basically, I guess I had on the show previously, Holly, she came on and was like, she said people were making fun of her. I'm like, what the fuck am I? Hold up, hold up. I paused the episode and I was like, listen, if you have a fucking, I just went off because I was like, I can't believe that you're making fun of somebody who just didn't wake up one day and said, hey, listen, I want somebody to touch me or I want to be assaulted by someone or I want to be raped by It's like none of you guys chose for this to happen because the effects afterwards is that you could be in therapy the rest of your life. And some of those things people don't make it out. They commit suicide because they just can't handle what's going to happen because no one wants to listen to them. And you being out there speaking up this out loud is great because like you're coming out of the shadows to be like, hey, listen, I'm a victim, but I'm not going to let it be I'm not going to let it be, I'm not going to be the victim of it. I'm going to let people know that, hey, you're not alone out there. If this has happened to you, you're not alone. Listen, my story may not be the same as yours, but at the end of the day, we've both been through something like that. And it's really powerful, honestly, because you're going to be the sounding board for people that are going to hear this thing and be like, oh, listen, Caroline's been there, so and it'll be great. So just wait till you start getting those emails from people telling you, hey, listen, I heard your show. I like what's going on, or other people just raving behind it all, and it'll be great because it's like you're out there talking to other people, you're telling other people about your story, and you're sharing it, letting them know they're not alone. So, now they don't have to feel so alone. And you never know that one moment could save somebody's life. They may need to hear your story, maybe the one that
Mm.
saves them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always try to stop myself from getting too aggravated by ignorance and try to view it from the standpoint of this is the reason why we have to keep talking about that stuff
Exactly.
so that it becomes more of a comfortable topic. I don't like people laughing at survivors or victims.
Hmm.
However,
Hmm.
because I try to always see the other side, I do understand. I don't condone it, but I understand where that comes from in those people. And it comes from perhaps they are a survivor of that and aren't ready to handle that at this point in time. And B, it's just pure ignorance and people not understanding. They're stereotyping, they're watching too many sensationalized movies and sitcoms about these types of situations. So I try to give them a little bit of grace and take it upon myself as it being my responsibility to help some of those people. They don't have to agree, but to at least see the other side of things.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're doing it in the right way. You're not coming out argumentative. You're coming out as, "Hey, listen, maybe you should think of this from the aspect of what that person went through." And the one thing that
Yeah.
triggers me about the internet is
Yeah.
I hate these fucking suicide videos. Like they drive me absolutely well, after you take your life, you'll get 16 text messages. Like, you know what? Every time I see those, my skin crawls. Like, you know what? Whoever decided this trend was a great idea, either A, has never been through that or thinks they're helping and they're not helping
Mm.
because, someone seeing that video you're going to confirm to them that they don't matter. Like, how do you think the outcome of that's going to be? Like, this scare tactic thing may work with most people, but when you telling people that, hey, listen, when you take your life, well, it don't matter. There's calls are going to come in, texts are going to come in. They don't need to hear that. They don't want to hear all that. They're looking to be heard. Not for you to confirm the fact that their thoughts are correct, that
Yeah.
nobody cares that they're going to be here anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like every time I see it, it just aggravates the
Mm.
hell out of me, And I talked to an actual psychotherapist about it because we were discussing it. I was like, these are not helpful. And he agreed. He was like, no, these are not helpful. I'm like,
Mm.
because people seeing that could be right at that age or that edge of the stage of once you get to the point, you're not listening to anybody else. Nothing matters. People don't realize once you start getting to a certain state, you don't listen to anybody else. You can say shit, but I'm not listening to you. I've already got everything figured out, everything I'm going through, and it's like it comes to, a lot of times when that subject comes, a lot of people get uncomfortable. So like if you hear people making jokes about the kind of
Mm.
conversation, like take it serious. Like I'm telling you right now, this person's been there that like a
Yeah.
lot of times they're asking for help without telling you they need help. And you should really be concerned when they start making jokes about stuff like that. And the thoughts that may be going on in their head. Like if you're not ready
Mhm.
for it, have them call 988. Great place to call because one of my co-hosts in my other show, she ended up calling them and she was telling us about it. Yeah, hey, listen, I called them, and we're in a group of me and this other podcasters on a group, and we talk about mental health a lot in there. And she had mentioned that, hey, I called 988, and this was funny because I did an interview with somebody, and she was trying to tell me that 988 isn't effective, but when the statistics came out, actually 988 saved more lives than actually people taking their own lives. So they were great though with her. They followed up with her
Yeah.
too. I thought that was real great. They followed up with her a few days later, made sure she was okay. And people don't know that's out there, but it's like everybody's afraid to call, but you can call, text, you can do all those great things. That's the great thing about it. You can text them too.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk to them on the phone, text them. They'll talk to you, things like that as well. And it's hard though. I mean, I get it. It's hard. It's a tough subject. Your subject's tough to talk too. Like you telling people that they're gonna look at you like, oh my God, are you okay? And it's like, yeah, I'm not telling you for sympathy. I'm telling you so you understand that these are the things I've been through. I need you to
Mm.
understand that this is going to be a complex relationship for us, friendship wise or even relationship wise. And,
Yeah.
and you being up to the forefront about it is great
Yeah.
because at least you're letting them know, hey, listen, I hope you're ready for this. And now what they do with that information is up to them. Do they go look and see what they can do better to help you out? And say, listen, if she gets into these situations, what can I do better? Or ask you questions. Hey, Caroline, what can I do for you in these situations? Teach me some things that I can help you in these situations. And I think we tend to forget that. We all want to go to the hero complex of, hey, let me go save everybody. Not everybody
Mm.
can save everybody, but you can ask you, the person that deals with it, hey, listen, is there any way I can better help you? And then listen. Keyword in that sentence is listen to what you're saying because you're telling them, hey, listen,
Mhm.
you can help me in these situations. This is what to do if I go into these situations. And they'll be like, okay. So that way they don't panic because panicking in those situations isn't going to do you any good. It's going to get you riled up more. It's not going to be helpful for you, things like that. If you have a moment or something triggers you in some weird moment, they need to be ready to be jumping to action to be like, okay, let's get her calmer down. Let's get her out of this situation, and things like that. And people tend to forget that, especially people with BPD, because my last relationship, that whole situation was, I did a lot of research. I even hosted the expert in BPD, Dr. Jen Bellinger came on, and we had talked about that. And I reached out to her the minute I knew this girl I was talking to. I'm like, Dr. Jen, I'm getting involved with somebody. What advice you have? She actually had a great community I signed up for, so I can learn how to better support her as a partner. Hey, listen, I could do these things for her. I listened to her as she was trying to tell me different things about things and teach me things. And I think that's a lot of times what people forget. And I proved this theory right when I was on a panel. I was the only person there without an education in this. I was just an average person that has advocating for this. I didn't have any license background. All these licensed people, not one of them said the exact statement I'm going to tell you is that I said, how about let's ask the person what to do? you better believe that all of them turn around and said, well, I agree with Pete over there. His comment makes sense, because we all tend to forget. We all want to give these complex answers. We want to save the day. But at the end of the day, in the moment, we don't ask you, Caralyn, me, Pete, whoever the person you insert in that situation, what can we do? So this question to you now is, do you have any advice for anybody at home that may have went through this, that are just on that edge of thinking about talking about it? What would you say would be the best way to go about it?
Oh, well,
And this is
I
in your
would
own opinion,
start
by the way, too.
with,
So,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. From my experience, I've been very fortunate to have made really good, solid friendships
mhm,
throughout my entire life, to be quite honest with you. I've always had at least one or two people that I could trust to, unload or vent or whatever it may be. So, if you are fortunate to have trusted people already in your life, start there. But if you're someone who doesn't have that, which a lot of times that is the case as well, um, reach out to some of those hotlines, or some local resources. After I was sexually assaulted, I went to the local YWCA. And in fact, I didn't actually probably know that that's what that they did, like, rape kits and stuff like that. I
mhm,
think probably a friend maybe told me, but a lot of people don't know the amount of resources within their community.
yeah,
There's so many different resources. There's even therapists who have like sliding scales when it comes to payment. Some places you can even give like a donation. So I would say if you have supportive people, start there. But if you don't, look around your community, utilize some of these hotlines. But I think most importantly is that you have to be making this decision for yourself. It's the same thing with somebody who's deciding to become sober from drugs or alcohol.
mhm,
Everyone in the world can want it for them, and they can even choose it to appease other people, but if that is not their individual, thoughtful, intentional choice, who knows, like, what's really gonna come of it. So, you have to decide that you're ready to do it, because once you do share that information, you have to be willing to plug into whatever resources or steps or activities or whatever's gonna be involved in helping you overcome that. I wish I would have gone to therapy after pretty much all of my traumas. I've not really been to therapy for a lot of those things. Fortunately for me, with time and very intensive, like, self-healing, I'm doing okay, but I don't necessarily advocate for that. If I would have gone to therapy after my sexual assault, I think, well, who knows if the other things would have happened, but let's say they did. I think it would have been easier for me to speak up about those things before, like, the last minute was coming.
yeah,
I have a tendency to wait until, I've got one shoe on, living in a box. I've never lived in a box. I'm just using extreme examples. I will wait till the extreme before I ask for help. So I would strongly encourage you out there, if you're going to share your story, don't say, well, maybe I'll feel better tomorrow. No, choose to feel better today.
I love it. I love it. Carolyn, we're at that part of the interview now. I don't know if you've watched any of the other ones to this point. We're going to ask those two
I
important
have.
questions. Okay, so you know what's coming now, okay? So my question to you is, if your mental health had a song, what would you say that song would be? And you could break it down however you like.
Okay. So I would choose Elastic Heart by Sia, because that literally just describes my entire life. I have been stretched to capacity like a million trillion times, and I always bounce back. I always come back stronger, more educated, more informed with things. So I think I would choose Elastic Heart. You can stretch. I have been stretched to my max, sleeping on someone's couch with a 5-month-old baby, sleeping in a little portable crib on top of having no car, this, that, been under just so much crap. And I'm going to break out of that crap every single time. You
Yeah.
can do whatever you want to me. I'm always going to come back.
Right. I love it. Okay. And you know what question's next? The final question before we wrap up, and you already know it's coming. If you could break the stigma about mental health. Now, when I ask you this question, it could be the thing that pisses you off the most, or just something you want to share with everybody that they just need to learn, or something that a message you want to leave them lasting, telling them like, listen, hey, what would you say that would be?
You know what? I think I'm going to use this opportunity for people out there who are less aware about what mental health and mental illness entails. Those of us who struggle with our mental health generally, or whether it's a mental illness, we are not getting up in the morning choosing to feel, think, or whatever to be that way. I am not waking up every morning choosing to be anxious or depressed or whatever it is. It's just how our life is. Like, we're not choosing that. We're not doing it for attention. If I wanted to get attention, I could find a lot more amusing, exciting ways to get attention than to wake up and choose to have like mental health symptoms. Like, please stop thinking that it's a choice. It's not. Some people literally, like, the chemicals in their brain do not allow them to have the same kind of life as other people. So please understand that we are not choosing it, and we are literally doing the best that we can.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, Caroline, thank you so much for connecting with me. I'm so glad we finally got a chance to meet. Obviously, the next question
Yes.
is, where can people come check out the podcast, and how often do you drop episodes?
Okay, so right now I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. I will be adding more platforms hopefully this summer when I have the extra time. And then I drop an episode every month. There will be, well, we're in the month of April. This will be broadcasting later on. But yeah, every month, usually towards like the middle of the month, I try to drop the episodes. I always promote ahead of time to give people a heads up. But yeah, I would love everyone to check it out.
So, where would you like them to go? Do you have socials? You want to plug them in your own social? You want to come visit your own socials? Thanks for these announcements. Or are you on every platform? Just let them know what social medias you're on, so they know where to find you.
I am on every platform. I'm on Blue Sky, Twitter, TikTok, Clapper, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I'm on Substack and Medium, which are blogging platforms. So if you don't ever want to see me or hear from me again, stay off of those platforms. But if you would like to know more and learn more about my journey and all that stuff, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Caroline, for coming to hang out with me. It was great. I enjoyed having you. It was great. It was a pleasure. And as always, you're welcome to come back anytime you like. Anything you want to discuss, we can talk about it, things like that. Do you have any last words for everybody before I sign off? Give them the big
Just
hurrah.
everybody take care of your mental health. Yeah, take care of your mental health, everybody. Pete, you are a gem. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we could finally catch up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Guys, and with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode of Pete for Anxiety. I'm Pete for Anxiety on X, all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify, all the way down to Pandora Radio. And as I always say, it costs nothing absolutely to be kind to somebody. One kind act you can do can save life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete for Anxiety, saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health?